What's up, Arc Junkies? Welcome to a very special episode of the podcast. This is my first video, which I created especially for YouTube. I had the opportunity to sit down and chat in person with the one and only Dabswellington at Ink the Bay. Before we get into the show, I want to thank our supporters. Today's episode of the Arc Junkies Podcast is brought to you by CK Worldwide, the standard in TIG welding. They just released the all-new MT375 water-cooled TIG machine, fully equipped with a utility cart, high-frequency start, dual voltage, and easy-to-use interface. Check them out today at ckworldwide.com to find a dealer near you. We're also brought to you by Outlaw Leather, makers of high-quality custom leather goods to include welding hoods, arm pads, rod pouches, scabbards, and more. Visit outlawleather.com today and use Arc Junkies at checkout and get 15% off all in-stock leather goods. We're also brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. If you're a maintenance welder, you got to check out their Tartan AAA for welding medium-grade carbon steels in all positions. With their triple deoxidizers, you can weld through dirt, oil, paint, and grease, and still get a sound weld. Get a free 1-pound tube of Tartan AAA when you spend $250 at rockmountwelding.com and use AJP at checkout. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5. So, Dabs, you're looking a little red there, man.
Well, things happened. I spend a lot of time either under the hood or behind the wheel. And I spent a lot of time this morning in the hot Florida sun for Ink the Bay, and I've got a delightfully red glow base coat, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I'm probably in the same boat. I saw myself on camera earlier, and I was like, damn, I'm a little crispy.
I knew it was bad when I caught a glimpse of my calf meat in my peripheral.
Because that doesn't get a whole lot of exposure.
No, and I was like, well, you know, my face felt a little red, and yeah, I took a trip to the bathroom, and mistakes were made this morning. But we're gonna ride it out, and it's not gonna dampen my spirits whatsoever.
Right. I figured by Monday I should start the peeling process.
Yeah. No, I will be a handful for when I get home for the family.
Yeah. You start touching it, you get that big white spot on there. Yeah, dude. I try to stay out of the sun. You know, as much. You know, I live in Florida, but as much as I can, I try to stay out of the sun or like in the shade, just because I'm allergic to the sun. I break out melanoma. It's a bad situation.
Well, I do fine as long as I ease into things, but you know It's been, we got, I don't know if you call it, you know, Indian summers where it takes forever to leave it. We had a sneak peek spring, and then it went back to winter, so I've been begging for warm weather, and I fully embraced it, and I got a little backlash.
It's that damn groundhog. He's got something against everybody. He's like, nope, yeah. we're not quite into the spring just yet. You're going to have some more.
Been a straight up yo-yo, but that's Missouri. That's a beautiful thing. Every time I come to Florida, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, year round, it's pretty warm. I mean, you can always rely on warm, you know, after 10 a.m. for the most part. Because when I hopped in the car this morning to drive out here, it was 60 degrees. And I was like, oh, man, if it would just, like, stay like this all day, it's going to be perfect. Because I had the heat on in the car. You know, I'd rather much deal with cold, overcast. But, no, I mean, out here on Tampa side, West Coast, I mean, it's always sunshine and, you know, rainbows and all that good stuff. It gets grotesquely hot. It's very moist out.
Yeah, Missouri's the same. At least you've got a beach here, you know, so there is a little bit of a trade-off.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I guess you get used to the palm trees and the Spanish moss and everything, but it's quite a nice, stark change of scenery for me.
Oh, I'd imagine so. You guys got a lot of farmland out there. You got a lot of crops growing and back roads.
Well, that's the bad thing. Traveling through the winter, there's not much of anything.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty barren.
Everything's dead and barren, but now it's starting for sure. There, you know, soybeans, corn. A lot of that stuff in our area, and you know, a lot of wildlife. Seen a lot of deer lately.
Oh, very nice. Yeah,
that always puckers me up. I'm traveling with a lot of metal, welders, gas tanks, and miscellaneous things. That's, you know, I don't want to pile up the Trailblazer.
No. Yeah, tell me a little bit about because you've been doing a lot of traveling lately. How's that been? I mean, you've been like touring the U.S., seeing a lot of different states, a lot of different towns.
Mostly the Midwest. You know, so for those that don't know. I'm traveling for American Welding Academy and recruiting for them, so I'm out here this weekend personally, but most of the time anytime that I'm out traveling during the week, it's for them. But I get to go into high school career centers. The first year I spent mostly in Missouri, familiarizing myself with local area, but that was also the year of COVID, so it was, you know, the only places I could get to were people that I actually knew. The second year I was there, I was able to get into Illinois, barely into Arkansas, but still it was kind of the same thing. This last year, it's been anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I've had to turn a lot of things down just because I can't squeeze it into my schedule. but I've consistently traveled in the entire school year through Missouri, Arkansas, Indiana, Illinois. I've got a couple gigs coming up in Iowa, and then I hopefully would get into Ohio next year. So it's branching out nicely.
Yeah. So are you hitting up like mostly high schools? Or are you doing career and tech centers?
Vocational career centers for the most part.
Okay. That's what I was wondering, like with high schoolers, if linking up with the guidance counselors or anything like that, if that's being well received.
Yep. Thankfully, anyone that says Instagram or social media is just completely cheesy. It is vapid self-promotion. Don't get me wrong. I completely know what I'm doing.
If anybody does, Dabs knows what he's doing around the gram.
But it's an incredibly valuable tool, and it has honestly helped me get presence in front of places I would have never been able to reach otherwise. Mm-hmm. And it does work out great when you walk into a classroom and someone recognizes you before you open your mouth.
Yeah.
But that goes with something we were discussing before we started recording, that I don't have the typical look or air of a welder. So a lot of times, these...
You get mistaken for an electrician a lot.
Well, or many other things, people would call me a carpenter or a roofer, whatever, depends how derogatory. But, they don't assume that I'm someone that knows my way around a welder. So, I don't mind getting mistaken or underestimated.
Well, you always get that shock and awe value once you light up and you start throwing down some dabs.
Yeah. Being able to back up, put your money where your mouth is always helps.
Yeah. And I always like, staying silent until you actually have to go up there. Like, you don't have to talk yourself up. You're just like, okay, that's cool. Just bring it, everybody come in.
I have trouble staying silent, but I don't normally talk myself up too much.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Is and I've said that 100 times in the industry. Like, don't be cocky, be humble, but be confident.
Yep. Humble and confident.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to get you so much further in this industry.
Just walk around with a big shit-eating grin like I do, and people ask, why are you smiling? I'll be like, come on, I'll show you.
Yeah. Because I get to weld all day, every day.
Yep.
And here's I'm going to let you in on a little secret. They pay me to do this.
Yep, exactly.
Fools.
And well, that's the beautiful thing about it. I never had exposure to welding at an early age, and I got placed at my first weld shop as a temporary. So my career path, the opportunity for working at the school, everything is because of that first thing, and it was by random luck. If they'd have placed me at a wood shop, I'd probably be making bowls,
awesome woodworker.
making bowls or something right now.
Yeah, you'd be doing like awesome router work on,
who knows? But as soon as I was exposed to TIG welding, I immediately knew it was something that was for me, and I get to be that olive branch. I get to be that person that gets to expose people that had no idea that the trade life is for them. A lot of people are doomed and promised that the only opportunity to get out of the situation they're in is 4-year college or some kind of degree or something like that, when in contrary, not just welding. Welding is what I'm passionate about, but there's so many trade opportunities for all kinds of kids outside of what most people are, shoving down their throats.
Yeah, I just spoke from some of the folks from 3M on a podcast just recently, and they had this guy on there, Cedric Smith. Now, he's a welder. He kind of had a different upbringing. He was incarcerated, but while he was in prison, he had access to welding equipment, and so he got to learn a little bit about it and turn it into a career when he got out. Another person that's featured, so 3M put this documentary out called Skilled, and one of the other people that's in there is this young lady by the name of Paige, and she's a plumber. And, so like same thing, very stereotypical. She knocks on somebody's door. She's like, hey, I'm here to, they're like, who are you? What do you want? Well, you called me. I'm here to fix your plumbing issue. And like people get upset because they're like, well, you can do something that I can't do. But the cool thing is she's passionate about that. And that's a skilled trade that she enjoys, getting up every morning, going to work and like solving plumbing issues or, installing new systems or, making repairs or fixing things that other people can't do. But she's passionate about the work. So like you said, it doesn't matter, you might have got into woodworking. Just be passionate about what you're doing, find your passion.
Well, I'm a very methodical person, and I'm a control freak. Welding with enough, it doesn't take, you don't have to be a brilliant person. To understand the science and all of that behind it, to get certified, especially at a CWI. Yes, that takes incredible amount of study and brain power, but to develop a welding skill set, to become a craftsman, it takes repetition and dedication. You know, as long as you apply that and enjoy working with your hands, you know, I'm on the other side of things a lot. I've got a lot of mental stress with my job now, you know.
Well, that might be a little bit closer.
Yeah, sorry. With welding, you don't have that. You get out of that by working with your hands, and that's another incredibly valuable thing about trade work. You know, that it is soothing to a lot of people. You know, so I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, it's you know, you put the hood down and everything goes away, or you immerse yourself in that work. I mean, just the planning process. You know, I'll throw some earbuds in and just start looking at what I'm getting ready to create. You know, I might sketch something out, or I might be working off somebody else's set of, you know, shop drawings or prints, but just the ability to sit there and wrap my mind around it. Like, I've got really bad ADD, so I get distracted like super quick.
For sure.
But once I'm working on a project, that's all I can think about. And it's like super focused. And I'm sure you've scrolled through the gram and you've seen those videos where it's like a bunch of chatter and like somebody goes and picks up like a barbell, you know, with a heavy amount of weight, and like everything just goes away.
Yep.
It's the same thing with welding. You know, once I flip that hood down, or once I bust out that project or start cutting and prepping my pieces and getting everything fit up, everything else goes away. I can tune out all the, oh man, did I leave the coffee pot on, or, you know, like, is the door open, or like, you know, oh, did I pay that bill, or, you know, like, when's my next check coming in? Like, everything else goes away. And it's like, it's kind of like a surreal experience every time you flip the hood down.
It's you know, this is an overused statement, but it's your flow state. You know, you get into that zone that, and well, that's where repetition and, you know, all that stuff plays into it. You know, that you've done things enough to where when you put that hood on and it goes down, everything is an automatic feature.
Yeah, it's autopilot.
Yep.
It's like driving a Tesla.
Yep, exactly. And that, you know, that's a wonderful place to get, because once you're welding, it's like your mind is, you can be so focused but calm and almost thoughtless at the same time.
Yeah.
It's almost like meditating, you know.
It is. I would imagine, you know, very, very much when like you're doing your artwork pieces and everything, because I mean, it's an artistic expression as well as a highly skilled talent. But once you know exactly what dab you're going to put where, you know, whether it's three dabs wide or two dabs wide, or you got to narrow it out or widen it up. And like, you've already got this thought process in your head. You flip the hood down and it's like, let's just do this. You know, you throw on some jams and start rocking out.
Well, most of them, when I've got them printed out, you know, I'll print them out weeks ahead and look at them. You know, sometimes I'm fortunate enough to get ones that are reorders, and those are most times my favorite, because I always
got it figured out.
I always see something that's like, oh, I'll do this different next time. So you get to tweak things, but the you know, the process is close enough to the same that, you know, I could almost map it out for someone like a color by numbers. If and when I do it, this is how I'm going to do it by the time I get to it, you know, because it's one shot, one kill, you know, and there are 15 that were duds that I walk by every time I go to that table still, you know, and it was always like most mistakes. You usually don't make them twice as long as you're paying close enough attention. And, you know, it's been a while since I've completely boned one up. It'll probably happen this weekend now. But you know, that's the wonderful thing about practice.
So you save some of the pieces that you've done before that, you know, you just completely shit the bed on. And
every one of them.
Really?
I walk by them every time I go to my table. Yeah.
Okay, that's why you had a very specific number of 15. I was wondering.
It's the graveyard.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not an OCD thing. No, it's right there.
Well, it's also a step of progression. I mean, you can see where you started and where you're at now.
Well, I preach highly that, you know, if you don't make a mistake, you're doing things you're already good at. You know, until you push yourself outside of that zone of comfortability and make a mistake, yes, you're honing things that you're already decent at, but you're not making any great new progress. You know, once you find an area that you fall flat in your face, it's like, there, I need work. You know, that's like whenever I'm putting out videos and people see me walking the cup. Why are you doing that? It's easier. It's like, well, I'm a freehand welder. I can easily freehand things. I want to do the things that I suck at because I want to get better.
Yeah. I noticed you're diving into the world of pipe. How's that?
Well,
whole thing been?
I get a lot of crap from kids that can weld better than I can. You know, there are. Well, you know, it's funny because I talk to them when they're in high school, and I can really impress them. You know,
Yeah, you can rope them in with the TIG welding. It's nice. It's clean.
12
pretty
weeks,
colors.
12 weeks in, they're like, hey, come in here. And it's like, they can honestly weld circles around me, you know? So, I mean, it's partly something I've always wanted to learn, you know, because of course people have always said, you're not a real welder. You do artwork, you do sanitary, you do sheet metal. And it's fun to be able to learn something and show them. It's like, it's just another, it's the same. It's like Taco Bell. Same damn ingredients, just repurposed in a different thing.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a completely different flavor profile.
Yeah. But I mean, we're all doing the same stuff, and it's really cool to see, you know, these pipe students then try to do exactly what I do, because there's nuance and practice that comes into all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Now, I've seen you do a bunch of like different workshops and everything where you bring people in and kind of show them, here's how I do like this TIG welding type of work.
The local chapter of the AWS from St. Louis came out.
I saw that.
That one was really, really fun.
It's my buddy Travis Jumper was with that.
Yeah. No, Travis has come out a couple different times.
He's a good dude.
Oh, he's a good time. In fact, I ran into him at the FFA convention with AWA. Gosh, him and Stephanie, I saw them. You know, that's the other cool thing about you know, my personal travel before the school, and now it's like there's always I get to run into a lot of great friends everywhere I go anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's who would have ever thought that you know, this dumb welder would be getting good at networking and, you know, all that stuff. It's neat.
Now, when you sit down and you do these demos and these instructional periods, how do you take somebody that's never TIG welded before and like get them up to speed in a very short time without them having like any exposure to welding?
I try to apply it to things that they're already doing or things they're already good at. Because the process, if you can draw, it's pretty well the same. If you can follow a straight line, most people can trace, same thing. So my process is really a lot like tattooing. You know, we have to get the image on the material. As long as somebody can follow that, and then I really preach rhythm a lot. You know, in high school I was a drummer. I really do believe that's what helped me really develop good independent usage of my appendages, both you know, feet from hi-hats and kick drum, but then snare from playing off-handed and, you know, right-handed. You know, so tempo, timing, and then just really, you know, there's a couple silly acronyms I'm sure you've heard, DASH, but distance, angle, speed, and heat. You know, welding is a lot easier. I can't remember his name, and I would butcher it even if I could attempt it. That was welding with me earlier. I was even able to grab the torch by the back of his hand and guide it along, you know, and show him what he was doing wrong. He's not able to reproduce it yet because he doesn't have that control of his motor skills.
Right.
But to show him that even with his hand, that it, you know, it's just something that takes practice.
Yeah, that's one thing that my instructor did when I was, you know, coming up and learning how to weld originally, is he would like literally hold my hand and just kind of show me and say, okay, that's what it should feel like. This is where you need to move it. That's how you manipulate it. This is how long you're going to hold on this side. This is how long you're in the same thing, tempo.
Yep.
You need to develop a rhythm, and you start, you know, putting all of these things together slowly but surely, and it becomes natural. And that's kind of, when I was teaching, I decided to take the students out of the booth. Okay, if you're having an issue with TIG welding, come out of the booth, because the booth is too damn small for us both to get in there. I'd take them over to, like, we had a couple of Rhino carts in there. So that way, and it was the perfect width across, because I could, you know, because a lot of shop tables are like 4 foot, 8 foot, you know, across from one end to the other, but the Rhino cart's a little bit smaller. Yep. You know, so I can have the student on one side, I can be on the other, and I say, okay, I'm going to hold, you know, the back cap of the torch. You're going to hold, you know, the body of the torch, and I'm going to hold the filler metal. I want you to look at the filler metal, but watch the tip of the tungsten and see exactly how far we are off the materials. In, you know, so distance, you know, angle. Here's the angle that we're going to be, you know, speed. This is how fast we need to go. Okay, it's stainless. We're going to pick it up a little bit, you know, in our travel speed, so we don't cook the material. You know, aluminum, same thing. Steel, you know, I like to weld steel a little bit slower. You know, I can get away with that. I'm not worried about cooking out chromium and nickel and all that good stuff. You know, so I'll start them off on steel just to kind of build that rhythm and build that timing. And, you know, here's how we dab. Here's when we dab. You know, the angle, the filler metal, you know, that's a huge thing too. And then, you know, how close are we keeping that filler metal to the puddle?
It's like a little rod of ice cubes. That
exactly.
Cools out. People don't understand. People, especially for the artwork, especially for, you know, in sheet metal, my stuff, you know, was never x-rayed, none of that. You know, people, when they would comment, it's like, apparently you've never been in the sheet metal world, because none of this matters. It's like, it needs to be watertight. We need all of these seams sealed up in what I was doing. So it's like, I weld things. Why is it so colorful? I needed to weld a little hotter and faster than the guy next to me just so I got more done, you know? Mm-hmm. And turns out it applies really well for art.
Yeah. I'm glad you used the metaphor of, you know, like a full rod of icicles or ice cubes, because that's what I tell students, you know, like when you're working with, you know, the TIG welding process, you've got three main ways to control your heat. You got the foot pedal, you got your travel speed, and the amount of, you know, filler metal that you're putting in. So you put in less filler metal, you got a hotter puddle. You're putting more filler metal in, it's the same thing. You know, you take a cup of water, it might not be ice cold, but if I just start dropping, you know, an ice cube in there every couple of seconds, pretty soon that water is going to be 34 degrees. Same thing with your puddle. You know, I can control the temperature of that puddle. So let's say you're not welding with a foot pedal, that you've got, you know, you just did scratch start and you set your machine at 120 amps and that's all you've got. Well, guess what? I can cool that puddle down pretty quick by cramming a lot of filler metal in there.
See, and that's where the 045 tiny wire like I like won't work. Because I've got to have, you know, for what I'm doing, a foot pedal is a necessity. But that is definitely something, you know, when you're welding pipe, you know, it isn't, you know, it's incredible how much you can manipulate a 95 to 100 amp arc with a, you know, 1/8 inch wire. You know, you can sit on it forever as long as you're washing things around and tying them in. You know, it doesn't move a lot. You know, and in comparison, 110 to 120 amps on sheet material that's a third of the thickness, that puddle moves.
Yeah.
You know, so
you got to be moving quick too.
You know, pipe guys and sheet metal guys will go back and forth with each other on that, but it's definitely each process. You know, pipe translates process to process. I think a lot easier than, you know, say aluminum to all the different fabrication areas. So, you know, it's a lot of stuff to learn, but it's cool to see the student side of it and watch how fast someone, you know, me learning on the job, I learned incredibly slowly, but that's also why I learned a lot of the weird tricks that work on the artwork by mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, or by not having the right filler wire in some shop, you know, probably my own. Well, let's try this real tiny stuff. And it's like, well, you can weld that a little colder than you would a 16th inch wire. And that's also why I'm able to weld backwards and around circles so easily, because that wire won't freeze to that solidifying edge. You know, it's like I would have never tried that on the job because it would have been irresponsible or something. But when you have a machine at home and you can really dive deep into something, it's like you play around with a process that most people only use as a utility.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Strong Hand Tools. Now's the time to save with Strong Hand. Hop on over to stronghandtools.com/promo and get 15% off slotted tables and fixturing kits, 5% off 5/8 tool packs, and 20% off portable fixturing packages. That's stronghandtools.com/promo. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. Pre-orders for the new Typhoon will be available at the end of April 2023, and you're going to want to be on the list for this awesome TIG machine. You can get the Typhoon in a 230 amp or a 330 amp version as well, and both feature AC and DC TIG welding, have independent amperage adjustment, split waveform control, and a 7-inch high-def interface. And as always, be sure to use Arc Junkies in the comment section at checkout to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG Torch upgrade when you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal. Now let's get back into the show. You start developing some of the little nuances of it and figuring out some of the little tips of the trade, tips of the trade.
And you know, that's what a lot of this weekend is about, because a lot of the people here are using this for something much more than just utility. But it is a great way to sell people on welding and trades, is that it is a valuable utility, but can also be a very fruitful outlet of artistic exposure.
Yeah. And it could be a great career. I mean, and like you made a career out of it, and you can double dip. No pun intended. Not the tungsten.
Shit, that's going to happen as well, folks.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you. Did you already go ahead and just do the obligatory tungsten dip just to get it out of the way for the weekend?
It happened with two people watching. Granted, we were still setting up the machine, but it'll happen again.
Good.
You know, it is a routine thing. If you're gonna make an omelet, sometimes you're gonna have to crack a couple eggs.
Yeah, I think I told you before, I like to dip my, just go ahead, light up, and dip my tungsten immediately. Say, all right, now we got that out of the way, we can start welding. Just get it done.
It's just pouring a little out, for the homies.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so you talked a little bit earlier about tempo. Now, when you're at home doing your welding and stuff, do you have like a specific type of music or genre that you listen to, or a soundtrack?
Even when I'm driving, like when I'm driving on in the morning to a visit, It's got to be a podcast, something to where I'm smooth, calm, cool, collected. But then right before I go in there, I usually always listen to A Boy Hits Car, Man Without Skin. That song gets me so infinitely pumped up. But, you know, I want to make sure that I'm something not to be forgotten.
I'm going to have to check that song out after this.
But, you know, when I'm welding, my music selection, you know, when I was tacking, it would have been the same way. Something slow tempo to where I wouldn't get ahead of myself. You know, with ADD, like I said, once the hood's on, it doesn't bother me. But if I was listening to fast-paced music and I was tacking something together, I would probably rush through that methodical process that I need to take slow time with.
Mm-hmm.
But once I get into the welding phase of something, especially the artwork, it's usually some EDM of some sort, because it's usually always like 150 beats per minute.
Yeah.
And I usually add material every other beat.
Okay.
You know, usually with the bass. And that's why all my videos sync up to music so easily, because I just always nudge it to a nice round number to where it just always looks like magically I'm welding with the, you know, the music.
Oh, that's pretty slick.
But that is, you know, that's why pulse is such a great feature, because if you know you're going to be welding at that tempo, set it to that pulse and practice there to where, you know, a couple hours in, turn off the pulse, and then lo and behold, you're like Pavlov's dog, and just mysteriously you've got that timing locked in.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it's, I thank Bill Vogt, my band instructor, for hitting a cowbell and getting that metronome out, because it really
more
did.
Cowbell.
We always need more cowbell, but it instilled in me tempo. Consistency is nothing more than, you know, tempo.
Yeah.
You can visually see the tempo that you put that weld in there, and as long as you can maintain that consistency
It's all your little ripples.
through tempo, it's a thing of beauty. And that's why when someone has enough practice, it looks, you watch a welder, a pipe welder, any craftsman, it's the same as watching someone play the violin or someone play, you know, a pitcher on the mound. A craftsman that has developed this skill for, what do they say, 10,000 hours?
Yeah, 10,000 hours.
Is something I enjoy watching, whether it's a welder. You know, if you saw my Instagram feed, it'd be laughable. You know, machining, it's nothing. It's incredibly boring to most people.
About what mine looks like.
Yeah,
It's blacksmithing,
but- yeah,
machining,
yeah.
welding.
I've got on a real kick. I can't remember their names yet because they haven't let me buy anything. But a couple Damascus knife makers that just, I'm sure they don't tell me the price because they know I can't afford it.
They're pretty pricey.
But their work is absolutely incredible, you know. And luckily, a lot of them are very forthcoming with their process and sharing videos and stuff. So
Yeah. That's my buddy Steve Grillio. He does the last year we did the PTSD fundraiser, and he built a Damascus slicing knife for that giveaway. Well, this year, like, he was like, I started getting into blacksmithing and stuff, and he's like, hey man, I'm gonna send you a chunk of spring. You can try your hand at knife making. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, I get home one day, and I kind of felt like a dick because I've got like this 2-foot tall package at my door. It's just like this big tube, and he's like, sends me a text message. He's like, hey, did that package get there yet? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm not home yet. At the time, I wasn't home, but I got home and I was like, yeah, hey man, package made it. You know, appreciate you sending that out. And I'm in the studio, like, trying to get, you know, an episode edited and everything. And he's like, you think that's gonna work on a brisket? And I was like, it's a piece of spring. Like, I don't know. I was like, not sure what you're talking about. Like, I'll get back with you here in a couple minutes. Let me finish this up. And like I said, I felt like a dick after I walked out. But so I got everything done in the studio and everything, closed it up for the night, and go out there and grab this package and open it up. And it's packed with like grocery bags. So I start pulling them out, and then all of a sudden I see like this handle, and I was like, that's not a piece of spring. And so I pull out this badass freaking Damascus slicing knife, and he wrote Bark Junkies on the side of it, you know,
Nice.
for like the bark on a brisket and everything.
hell yeah.
And I was like, this is freaking wicked. And I like open it up, and it's got like all the Damascus, you know, like the layering and everything in there. And then of course the piece of spring was in there, but I was like, yeah, this thing is freaking awesome. So yeah, to get somebody, there's a lot of time, effort, and money that are wrapped up into that. So to get that from him, it was like a super cool gift to receive from, you know, a fan of the show and then somebody that supported the giveaway last year. But yeah, like, I'm all about some Damascus, and now I finally own a piece of it.
And Bark Junkies is quite clever.
Bark Junkies was very clever. Yeah, I got to give him that.
There's a couple very talented. I can't remember the guy's name that was down in Branson, but he was on Forged in Fire, that even does lessons and stuff like that. And you know, that is definitely something I would look forward to getting more into. I mean, gosh, it's the oldest form of welding.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean,
forge welding.
if we want to stay true to everything, and it'll be something good once my hands completely shake, and my eyesight really starts to go. I do believe I'm gonna get some glasses here pretty shortly.
Oh, really?
Oh, for sure.
Well, so when I was grabbing all my stuff, like if I do low amp TIG welding, because I'll do like low amp TIG welding at the house to do like a lot of restaurant repair work and stuff, like 30 amps. And like that's a very small arc. So I noticed like when I do small TIG welding, if I'm using 16th wire or below, I'll throw in a 1.5 cheater.
Oh yeah.
But if I switch over to stick, MIG, TIG, flux core, like I can get away without a cheater. But I just hit 40 this year, so I'm waiting for to start declining.
I'll be 43, and we were at the Dave Chappelle show, and I was trying to read stuff across the Savas Center. And Heather started making fun of me. She's like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "I can't read that." She's like, "Oh shit."
Uh-oh. Come on, old man. Let's take it out of the optometrist.
I had just been telling myself that it's dirty lens. I'm sure there's fingerprints or something. But I mean, I've worked at close distance, relatively same close distance, 18 inches to 22 inches for most of my life. So in the dark. So it's, that's why I don't like driving at night. The lights are too bright. I can't dim it down enough. It's not like I'm welding.
Yeah. But I've noticed that I do that in my car. Like I can hit the dimmer switch and turn down because everything's just too bright at night.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Same thing like going, through the city and stuff like that. That's why I prefer the country. There's nothing out there.
Why do you think I'm in Missouri, man?
Exactly. But like you start driving around the town, or you'll notice it tonight coming out of Tampa and stuff. Like it's lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, for sure. I noticed when we were flying into Tampa. Yes, very bright. When you fly over my area, not very
so
bright
bright
at all. No,
yeah.
not at all.
There's not a whole lot of lights out in the fields.
No.
Yeah. So the reason I asked is because I've got about the what type of music you listen to when you do your artwork and stuff. I've got specific playlists or things, and I've just wondered if other welders do the same thing. I know Dusty James, he gets down with some Blink 182 when he's doing his stuff,
or
he'll get into his reggae.
His latest video, by the way, is absolutely
the beginning.
Yeah, oh,
that thing is freaking killer.
All of it. He mixed the airbrushing with it. If anyone listening to this podcast, if you haven't checked it out, check out Dusty Pacific TIG Arc Weld. Go check out that video. Give him some love. It's incredible.
Yeah. So he played all the music for that.
No, I did not know that.
So I had him on the show because I wanted to talk about it, and I was like, dude, that video is freaking fire. But he's taken all of his different passions, like the airbrushing, the welding, doing videography, the editing, playing the music and everything. Man. Oh, dude, he's got the entire score was written by him, because at one point he reached out and he's like, dude, YouTube's trying to like demonetize like one of my episodes because they're like, I don't have copyrights to the music. He's like, I've got copyrights. He's like, screw that. I'm gonna make my own soundtrack. So he literally did. He made his own entire soundtrack for that video.
Did he name it by another artist, not with his name?
I don't think so.
Okay. Did he put something at the front of it and I just completely spaced out? Because I watched that video, I bet 10 times. It was.
I don't think
incredible.
He talked in the beginning of it, but I think it's listed in the description.
Okay, then that's probably the issue. I don't read well.
Yeah, I don't.
I glaze right over words.
I only knew because he kept calling that his therapy piece. So he's been working on that welding piece for over 2 years. So like anytime he gets a moment and needs to clear his head, he'll go out into the garage, grab that thing up, put his tunes in, flip down the hood, and just kind of go to town on this piece.
See, that's another problem that I have as well. I use the music that I listen to try to channel. I'm old enough now that, there is parts of my job that require me in an office. Mm-hmm. 20 years ago, that would have been impossible. It's still not easy for me to sit still and operate in that environment, but I'm able to do it because, I've practiced. I've figured out how, and I'm not quite as amped up as I used to be. I still get around pretty quickly. Well, exactly. They all come out like that. Yeah. Double dipping, amped up, been a welder for so long. The double entendres just write themselves.
Keep on
coming. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, but I've got different types of music for each process that I do. So if I TIG weld, I like a lot of instrumental. So like Bela Fleck is a banjo player, so I'll play some of that because there's no vocals.
Okay.
So that'll help me concentrate a little bit more. Same thing, I've said it on the podcast. There's a band called This Will Destroy You, and it's all instrumental, kind of like mood music. It's really cool. And then Parks on Fire is another good one, and it just kind of gets you in this relaxed, mellow state because with especially with stainless, like you got to be smooth with that. And I'm not a big jazz fan, but like you got to be like smooth like jazz when you TIG weld.
Something methodical.
Yeah, but like if I'm doing stick or flux core, I can throw in some like Pantera or Soulfly or Five Finger Death Punch or, you know.
I don't know. I got to have something I really concentrate with stick.
I could
terrible.
throw like some heavy stuff on there and just like get down with it and like just jam out.
I shouldn't say I'm terrible. I'm a lot better than I was, but that was because I never worked at a fab shop that the only exposure to stick welding in a fab shop was with if you were one of the install guys, you know, and I did all the work pre-install.
Right.
So, you know, there was never any need for me to do it, but I do enjoy the process and getting the opportunity. But I mean, let's be honest, TIG's where it's at.
But I mean, you're still doing pretty good with stick welding. And like you said, if you're not making mistakes, you're not making progress.
Yeah. So I that is something, every time I stick, I learn a lot. I get frustrated though as well, because that's definitely, I need to practice what I preach in that department a little more. I do what I am good at a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But most time I'm demonstrating in front of people, so it's best not to set yourself up to just die in front of a crowd.
Right.
So what I can replicate easily is what I obviously lean on the most. But I definitely get to stick weld and get opportunities at the school to do a lot of different processes. You know, I mean, even flex core is something I didn't do a lot of. You know, most everything I was doing was very thin gauge material, even when I was MIG welding, you know.
Yeah, I seen the presentation you did last year at FabTech. And you were, you know, at the Fronius booth, and like you were in your element, man. You're in that little fishbowl, and like you had it going on. You don't want to do a stick demo if it's not like your area of strength, but like you were just a natural, you know, talking about like how that process you're going to be able to fill gaps and do this, and then you brought somebody up and you showed them, and like it was really cool. I mean, like we were all standing back talking. We're like, damn, he's like a whiz kid with this stuff.
Well, it's something I polished again. It's not something that was last year. That was the end of an entire year of travel. You know, so I mean, it's like that's what people don't tell kids enough. If you're passionate about something, anybody can do anything they want. But you're going to have to work your ass off, you know, in the process. When I was younger, I worked my butts off at the jobs I had, but I didn't go anything above and beyond that. You know, the opportunity and exposure I've got today, I had to go above and beyond my 9 to 5 a lot. For a long time before anyone ever noticed. But, you know, if you're willing to do that in any area, people are going to be successful.
Yeah, and I think that's the best kept secret to becoming successful. I did the same thing. Like I landed a job and I'm out there working it, and I wanted to understand more about the project that we were working on. So I'd bring the blueprints home at night, and I would like teach myself how to read prints. No formal training as to print reading. Like I had a buddy that helped me one time on a job site. He cleared up a lot of things, but, you know, I asked for help, but I was still that one that I would go home and review the prints. And then the next day I'm looking for the part that I was looking at on the print last night. And, you know, especially doing like structural steel. Okay, this is the column line. And like you teach yourself the frame lines and this, that, and the other thing. It's like a whole grid pattern. I was like, okay, now this is starting to make sense. And then you start chiming in at work with, oh yeah, you know, you can do this, that, and the other thing. And they're like, oh shit, dude's catching on pretty quick.
Yep.
I'm not catching on a lot at the job site for the 40 hours I'm there because I'm concentrating on what you guys are telling me to do. But I'm going home and I'm thinking about what we did today. How can we make that better? How can we improve this process? You know, why did it suck doing it this way so much? How can we make this better? And then, you know, looking at the plans ahead, like, okay, this work's complete. This is obviously the next stage in the process. Let me start looking at that. So when I get there tomorrow, I've got a good idea of where everything's going to go. You know, and that's the best kept secret. You're putting in the extra work.
Yep. Or, you know, you sit in front of the same jig. Most guys will just sit there and bitch about it. You know, like, oh, this effing jig, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, well, then fix it. Figure out something that works better and bring it to somebody's attention. You know, and then lo and behold, you can double your productivity.
Yeah.
And then something that used to only piss you off now not only makes you look better, but then they're going to be like, you know, so-and-so's a go-getter. Check this out. And it may open up an opportunity of advancement.
Yeah. Let's give him a little bit more work. Let's see, let's see how he does with this.
You know, don't get me wrong. Some opportunities, it is who you know. But, you know, I never went to school for this. I'm passionate about welding. You know, luckily I did take a couple business management and speaking classes, so it blends well with my personality. But being passionate about something and aggressively dedicated to it, you can get your start anywhere.
Yeah. Actually, now that you brought it up, like a speaking class, like that was one of probably my favorite classes in college that I took.
It was my only favorite class in college.
I think that I was able to, but it's helped me out the most in industry because like I've had to do panel discussions with AWS. You know, I've had speaking engagements with AWS. I did this stuff with Weld.com. Being able to speak in front of a large audience of people, that's a skill. That's a talent. It's not something, I mean, there's some people that can just, just walk up on a stage and just start chatting. I'm not that person.
No,
I'm extremely introverted.
Me either.
But that speech class, I was like, why the hell do I need this? When am I ever going to stand in front of a large studio audience and start talking to people? Here I am on a podcast now, right? But I mean, that was probably one of the best classes that I took that prepared me the most for life. So if anybody's out there, if you got access to going to take a public speaking class, go do that. Or I think in every area they have something called Toastmasters, and it's how to teach you to speak in public.
Really?
I thought it was just like, here's to the, whole thing. No, it's not. It's like how to do public speaking, and it's like a group of people that, they teach you and they hone that skill, because I mean, there's a lot of things in this industry.
Well,
you got to speak in front of an audience.
So many, not even an audience, but what if there's more than one person in on your job interview? A lot of unions. There's going to be
five at least. I had five on my panel.
Okay. If you've never spoken in front of someone, you've got to be able to articulate your level of skill through words and words alone. And if you cannot, convey that intelligently, that's a problem. You may not get that test.
Yep. Next person. Bring them in.
So, I mean, public speaking, and that is something that is incredibly impressive, and I'm sure it's got a lot to do with maturity and age. But, the career fairs I work at, I get the opportunity to see 7th and 8th graders, and very few of them have got the tenacity to come up and initiate a conversation, or or the knowledge of anything to carry on a conversation.
Right.
Luckily by the end of welding school, at least they've studied enough that you get them on a weld job site, they can talk the talk, but getting through an interview process, being able to speak about what you can offer someone is a huge asset.
Yeah.
And luckily I developed a skill that I can back up.
Yeah. And I've noticed, like, so you talk about speaking with the 8th graders and not being able to carry on a conversation. I've noticed that, kids today, and I think it's because of cell phones and social media, it's hard for them to carry on a conversation because they do it in, 16 to 20 characters at a time and a couple emojis and stuff like that. They speak better through text, so, and especially, like, I've noticed a lot of students coming through when I was teaching. I'd be like, hey, dude, like, look me in my eyes when we're talking. This is how you communicate with somebody.
Give me a good firm handshake.
Yeah, give me a good firm handshake. I mean, they're looking at the floor, they're talking to you, and it's like, I can't hear you. My ears are up here.
Yeah.
Like, stop looking at my feet. Look at me. I mean, that's going to carry the way you carry yourself,
the
way you convey that information. And I try to bring that out of them. So, like, when you go to a welding school, you're not just learning welding. And that's what I would try to tell all the students that are coming in. Yeah, you're going to learn welding. I mean, that's what we teach here. But you're also going to learn some life skills. You're going to learn some communication skills. You're going to learn some ethics. You're going to learn some work ethics.
Oh yeah.
You're going to learn how to shake a hand.
Doing anything.
Don't hand me a cold fish.
Most high schoolers have never done anything 8 hours a day for 480 or 960 hours straight. Anything. And that alone is difficult. If you can do it in that setting for that period of time, you'll make it once you're gone. So that is a huge thing for a person's pride, because a lot of these, let's be blunt about it, a lot of these students were told they never amount to a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you can't go to college, you ain't going to be.
Yeah, you might as well get into the trades. They'll take anybody.
Lo and behold, look, now they're traveling welding boilers, chemical processing plants, and I'm not going to spout off a bunch of giant numbers just to make people ooh and ah, but
they're making good money.
The pay's out there. It's incredible money. They're making more money on first jobs than I left my last job for. And it took me 20 years to get that far, so you do the math.
Yeah.
You can learn either way. I advocate for anyone just to get into the trades, but if you want to get a fast pace, there are other options other than the way I chose.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that get into like finance and things like they fall into it, they get a knack for it. Same thing with cryptocurrency. They strike it lucky one time, and then the next thing they lose all their money. So I mean, that's a good like backup plan. Maybe go out there and get a trade and invest some of that money in there.
Oh yeah.
Do that on the side. Do that. Make crypto or something your side hustle. But I wouldn't. I don't think that would be. Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a crypto exchanger. Work the stock market. I mean, there's very few people that are really good with that.
No, I'm good at manipulating things with my hands, and I spend enough time doing that now that I'm knowledgeable enough that I can articulate it to others, and I find a lot of value in that because I wish, honestly, that someone would have been able to tell me when I was in their shoes because I was ripe for the picking. You know, if someone, you know, would have offered me the opportunity at 14, I would have jumped at it. You know, I just never had that opportunity, and then I'd have had a hell of a lot more practice and known that's where I should have invested my time.
Yeah. I think a lot of schools need to start readopting a lot of the skilled trades programs that they got rid of. You know, they got rid of the wood shop. They got rid of auto mechanics. They got rid of the welding.
And
they got rid of 4-H.
That was even happening whenever, you know, you said you were 40 now?
Yeah.
I'm going to be 43. So, I mean, even in the late 90s, early 80s, they were phasing out a lot of those programs. And, you know, luckily the high school I went to had a thriving, incredible band program. And, you know, that's where my interest lied then. And that is honestly why I didn't weld in high school, because you couldn't do both. Raleigh Votech was a 70-minute bus ride, and you couldn't practice before school and take that bus ride. So I chose wrestling and playing the drums over welding.
There you go.
Haven't spent much time in a singlet since. So
that's probably a good thing. I appreciate that.
Hey, the weekend isn't over.
That's true. But I mean, if you're already burnt on the back of your calves.
Well, we got to even everything out, bud, you know?
Yeah. You don't want to go home all splotchy and everything. You look like a leopard when you get back.
Exactly.
Got to get it all even out, get that base going across.
For sure.
That's great, dude. I'm looking forward to checking out your class tomorrow. I want to see what that's all about. And, you know, I'm sure you're going to have a big crowd over there. I know there's a lot of students coming from different schools to come and check out this event, especially the whole welding portion of it.
No, yeah, it should be interesting. I drove by a couple different technical career centers between here and the airport. Had to hold the steering wheel tightly. My old habits kicked in. I felt like I was still driving for AWA there. I was like, I was going to yank in there and just see if somebody wanted a demo. So hopefully some of them make it out here tomorrow. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
But, we're going to be here all weekend welding. It's going to be awesome. Fronius has got machines set up. Blue Demon's got machines set up. I don't know when this is actually coming out, so if it's after the fact, well, at least...
it's definitely going to be after the fact, but
they were out
all the more reason to come back to Ink the Bay 4.
There we go. There we go. They were out here for Ink the Bay 3, so it'll be even better next year after you hear this, and we can... show you all the pictures on Instagram about what a great time we all had.
Yeah, and this is actually probably going to be the first video for the Arc Junkies podcast that hits YouTube.
Well, that's going to be fantastic. I'm gorgeous. I'm well lit, bright red.
Oh, yeah, you're glowing up in the photo there. I look like my head looks like a damn cherry.
And I'm sure I've got awesome suntan lines like I've been at a NASCAR event all day.
Right.
So I'm going to be full raccoon before the day's out.
Well, awesome, brothers. Always great time catching up with you.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me on, and man, I'm glad I got to spend the weekend with you.
Oh, anytime. We'll have to do it, when there's less background music next time.
For sure. Well, at least I don't have any problem speaking up. But yeah, I'm gonna get up and do a little dance, and
do some merengue.
That salsa music's got me all worked up, man.
Well, let's get to it, brother. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the very first YouTube version of the Arc Junkies podcast. Hope you all enjoyed the conversation between Dabs and I. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.